Well, hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. I am here in Palm Springs. I came here on my own budget, so not a sponsored trip, but I'm here for an event with Amazon if you missed yesterday's vlog. But I wanted to answer a few more questions that I got over on my Instagram Q&A this week that I thought were really good. And the first one is, HRT patches are causing cold sores. Now what? Okay, so cold sores, otherwise known as fever blisters, are caused by reactivation of latent herpes virus. Most people acquire the herpes virus when they're young, but when it's a latent infection, it's there, you can't eradicate it, but it's not replicating, it's not making more viral particles, it's not shedding, it's not infectious at that point. Now, what will happen is your immune system, which is what keeps it in the latent state, might become suppressed, and then that leads to a full-blown lytic reactivation and you get a cold sore. And so things that can do that are ultraviolet radiation from the sun, because it suppresses the immune system. Also just getting run down, getting sick, colds, flus, any kind of mechanical trauma around the mouth, on the lower half of the face. That's why a lot of times dermatologists will ask you before procedures like certain resurfacing lasers if you have a history of cold sores, and they might give you a medication to prevent that from happening. Also, hormonal changes certainly can influence reactivation of herpes virus, so perhaps the HRT is having an effect there. To reduce the duration of a cold sore breakout, you can get a prescription for valcyclovir, otherwise known as Valtrex. Take it at the first sign of symptoms and it can reduce the amount of time you have it, hasten the clearance of it. Now, you'll probably notice Abreva sold over the counter without a prescription, and in my opinion, Abreva is way too much effort. You have to apply it multiple times a day, and it really only shortens the duration by like maybe half a day. So it's a lot of work, it's expensive. Valtrex is a much better way to go in my opinion. I have rosacea and sensitive skin, but have tolerated CeraVe retinol for several months. Would love to level up. Any recommendations? So, the thing about rosacea is it's a sensitive skin condition. That's like a hallmark symptom of rosacea. Sensitivity, things that come in contact with the skin, burn, sting, cause redness, irritation. And then cosmetic retinol or topical retinoid medications, they can be irritating, especially in the beginning. And so people who have rosacea, they don't always tolerate a topical retinol or a topical prescription retinoid medication. They can't handle that irritation period, right? But some do. And there are a variety of strategies to introduce either the cosmetic or the medication versions, right? And I have videos detailing how to do this. So it's not off the table at all if you have rosacea, and in fact, it can help rosacea, especially if you have papulopustular rosacea, the little bumps that look like pimples and the bumps that are full of pus. Topical retinoid, or even a cosmetic retinol potentially, can reduce the abundance of those. Cosmetics can make the claim to treat rosacea, but a topical retinoid medication used off-label, because they're not FDA approved for rosacea, can actually be a game changer. Not to mention, they also help improve barrier integrity, which is a key aspect of rosacea pathogenesis. They have an impaired barrier, so irritants get in more readily, they have heightened sensitivity, hyper-responsiveness, and so a topical retinoid can improve barrier integrity and reduce symptoms ultimately, as well as reduce the formation of the papules and pustules. The big question is, can you, the individual with rosacea, handle it? Sounds like in this case, this individual handles the cosmetic retinol. CeraVe has 2 retinol serums, both of them are great. One's in a purple bottle and one's in a blue. One has niacinamide and licorice root, and I think the other one maybe doesn't have licorice root. I can't remember. It's like the retinol is the same between the two, okay? It's like there's one other ingredient in one that the other one doesn't have. Regardless, those are great retinols. Now, if you tolerate that and you're looking for something that might be more of a medication that you would tolerate that could potentially be maybe more effective than a cosmetic at actually reducing symptoms further and reducing the papules and pustules, something that, is a little bit more, has a little bit more substance above and beyond what cosmetics can claim to do. Then, tretinoin has been around the longest. It's one of the more irritating. Tazarotene is also pretty irritating. That being said, there are newer vehicles for both tretinoin and tazarotene that are better tolerated. For example, Altreno lotion, hyaluronic acid, and also collagen, which are moisturizing ingredients and help to improve tolerability of tretinoin in that Altreno formulation. But then, you have adapalene also, which is over the counter here in the US, FDA approved, of course, for the treatment of acne. Generally very mild as far as the side effects of irritation, and could be helpful for sure for reducing papules, pustules, and potentially even the symptoms of rosacea related to barrier issues. What are your recommendations for SPF containing niacinamide? Okay, there's no shortage of options here, right? You just have to read ingredients, and you'll find a sunscreen with niacinamide. Niacinamide is what is carrying the industry. I'm here at an Amazon event and they have a variety of skincare brands here, talking about their products, and I'm sitting there going, well, a lot of that is just the niacinamide in there, which is a great ingredient, but you can only sing the praises of it and sell it so many ways, and so then brands have to add other things to kind of grab people's attention, and people see benefit. It's like, yeah, you see benefit probably because of the niacinamide. And I say that not to say that the other ingredients, I know I'm going on a tangent, but this is important. Not to say that the other ingredients in a product are not doing anything, but niacinamide, as far as a cosmetic ingredient, okay, we're not talking curing cancer here, right? As far as a cosmetic ingredient that you apply to the skin for benefits, it's one of the more well-studied cosmetic ingredients out there as far as stuff that has been used in clinical studies. Again, we're not talking about robust randomized control trials here that you would use to, approve a cancer treatment or anything, but in the landscape of what is available for cosmetics, you have a lot more research on topical niacinamide than many, many other ingredients. And it really can be beneficial provided you tolerate it. Okay, so to answer the question, there are many, okay? Like a lot of sunscreens I use have niacinamide. Pretty much, I would say 80% of the Korean brands put niacinamide in their sunscreens. That's just off the top of my head estimate, okay? So don't come here and be like, I surveyed 300 Korean sunscreens and it's actually only 65% Dr. Dray. I have been using the Anua Zero Cast. I finished a bottle. I don't know if my sunscreen empties video, and I've been teasing the sunscreen empties video for like a month now, and I was working on editing it on the plane. So yeah. I am on my second bottle of that. It's a chemical sunscreen. Yes, Anua is a Korean brand, but they made this sunscreen for the US market, so it doesn't have like Tinosorb or Eugenol A+ or anything like that. It has a standard chemical filters that are allowed in US sunscreens. So I've been really happy with that because it's moisturizing, it doesn't burn or sting, it has niacinamide, and it's water resistant. And SPF 50 is a pretty good SPF value. I like 50, okay, for the Texas sun and the Texas humidity, having that water resistance factor I really liked. So that's one I've really been happy with. Okay, can I use chemical exfoliants on my sensitive skin? So this is another one kind of similar to the retinoid discussion where they're not off the table, okay? They're not off the table, but you have to be careful, you have to be strategic. And, chemical exfoliants, there are a lot of options out there. You have salicylic acid, you have alpha hydroxy acids. When it comes to sensitive skin, a really good safe bet is polyhydroxy acids. Polyhydroxy acids are really, really gentle as far as the chemical exfoliation that they offer, but when used consistently over time, they can, over time, through their mild exfoliating properties, help to reduce the buildup of dry, rough skin. But they're also very good at improving water retention, which secondarily ends up leading you to the place that you are seeking to get to when you use an exfoliant, and that is smoother skin, less buildup of dry, rough skin texture by improving water retention, which, moisturizing alone does that. But polyhydroxy acids, they do kind of gently nudge exfoliation a little bit better. So I think they're a great option for sensitive skin. They're very well tolerated. But outside of that category, if you go into the alpha hydroxy acids, look at mandelic acid, because mandelic acid is also pretty gentle and pretty well tolerated. I have a video on mandelic acid, and I specifically bring it up too in another video I have about introducing a chemical exfoliant when you are already using a retinoid. So check that out. But yeah, I would say either polyhydroxy acids, which are gluconolactone or lactobionic acid, or mandelic acid. How can men shower after a midday workout without stripping their AM skincare routine? Okay, so I think there's this idea, this misconception that the skincare that you put on in the morning, it's gotta stay on the skin all day in order for you to get the benefits. And that if you wash your face, you take a shower in the afternoon, you're gonna rinse it all away. And that doesn't really likely happen, okay? Somebody asked me for a reference on this, and I don't have one, okay? I don't have a reference because this doesn't exist as far as how long an ingredient has to be on the skin before it can, the skin can be rinsed or washed and it's actually in there. We don't have good data on that, and it's going to vary so much, you guys. It's going to vary so much from product to product, formulation to formulation, ingredient to ingredient, that you're just never going to get that level of specific information. But it's just very unlikely that what you put on in the morning, as far as like your vitamin C actually it doesn't wash off of the skin. Once it gets in, it does, it has a depot effect, so it's there within the skin and you can't wash it off. So, and likely the same holds true for other antioxidants, I would imagine, as well. But all that to say, if you decide you want to take a shower in the middle of the day, in the afternoon, like you went to the gym or whatever, you don't really have to worry about washing your chemical exfoliant off and needing to reapply it. You don't need to do any of that, okay? It's just not practical or necessary because the ingredient has made its way down into the stratum corneum at that point. And anything, that's going to be rinsed off probably was never going to get into your skin in the first place. Now, when it comes to taking a shower in the middle of the day, I get it. Like, I wouldn't necessarily want to wash off like my makeup per se if I felt like I needed to take a shower. So you can actually just take a body shower and not get your head under the water. And the best way to do that is to get yourself one of those handheld detachable shower heads. Anybody can put them on. They're really easy. It doesn't matter if you're living in an apartment. They're pretty inexpensive and they're great for that. Not only are they great for just showering like the lower half of your body, they're also really great when you do wash your hair for getting the shampoo out really efficiently. Like if you just stand under the shower nozzle with it above your head, a lot of it runs down, right? I've run into this trap myself, no pun intended. Runs down and it can easily get trapped, the shampoo residue and stuff collect in the ears. And the next thing you know, that's not getting rinsed off and you end up with an ear eczema related to shampoo left behind on the skin. So I love it for that. And also an added perk is it makes it a lot easier to clean your shower walls because you spray whatever it is or you use whatever cleaner you're going to put on there, and then to rinse that off, you just take, I'm telling you, game changer. So that would be what I would suggest. We already kind of touched on this. Is tretinoin safe to use on rosacea? It's not unsafe to use, but it can aggravate symptoms due to the irritation that it causes. But if you tolerate it, if you're strategic about introducing it, you follow some of the tips that I've outlined in that video on how to use retinol without irritation, then it really can actually end up helping you turn a corner. How to get rid of under eye milia. Okay, so milia can be removed in office with extraction. I don't suggest trying to extract your own milia due to the risk of scarring. But there's not really a cream that will remove them. Topical retinoids may to a certain extent help hasten the clearance of them, although those can be pretty irritating under the eye. Likewise, chemical exfoliants may help hasten the clearance of them, but again, really drying and irritating under the delicate eye. They can spontaneously resolve on their own. You know, it's a myth that milia are caused by eye creams. They're not. They're cysts down within the skin surface. Like an eye cream is just not going to trigger that. It's not like a pore clogging thing. They're usually caused they usually form, there's certain hereditary conditions where milia are kind of a cutaneous manifestation, like the individual has milia, and depending on what the genetic condition is, they may have several other hallmark skin findings. But they're common in babies because their little skin and glands are still developing a bit. And in babies and young children, they're common, but they resolve spontaneously. And then where you see them a lot in adults is in areas of the skin where you've had a lot of sun damage, or if you've had any kind of trauma to the skin. They can happen as a side effect, for example, of a burn or of even a chemical peel or a resurfacing laser treatment, dermabrasion. Because there is the potential to injury to the deeper layers of the skin, and then that kicks off some sort of impetus for them to form. So that's really where you see them. Like, you'll see them in areas that have had a lot of sun damage because there's damage to the deeper layers of the skin. Also, if you've been using a potent topical steroid for a prolonged period of time because it thins the skin with long-term, uninterrupted, unsupervised use, you can get milia as well. But eye creams, moisturizers, skincare products don't cause milia. Can you share the Cica gel that you use around the eyes? Okay, so it's the La Roche-Posay Cicaplast gel, not the balm. But I also love the balm for like dry, flaky skin. Anyway, the gel is a glycerin skin protectant, and I love to use it around my eye area because it's a protectant, and eyelid skin is a lot more vulnerable to dryness and irritation for a few reasons. First of all, it's delicate skin. Second of all, the shape of your eye and the way your eyelid skin behaves when you blink, the muscles around the eye contract in this like accordion-like fashion, which really kind of brings any dust, literally, or allergens or anything that have settled on the eyelid area, the eyelashes, kind of fluff up there a bit, onto the skin and really drive it in even more. Plus, rubbing the eyes, you just kind of over time rub it in. So what the glycerin skin protectant does is literally protect the skin from irritating stuff getting in, and it helps with retaining water in eyelid skin. So the results: less eyelid irritation, smoother skin around the eyes, including the crow's feet area, because I do put it on here. It's not going to get rid of deep wrinkles or anything like that, but it will diminish those little fine lines that are mostly related to dry skin. Because it hydrates, and protects simultaneously. Because it does that, I also get this under eye brightening effect with it. Just because the skin under the eye is now really well moisturized, and just through light scattering, the under eye area appears a lot brighter. And it's very gentle. I've gotten some comments though from people in other countries who say that their version of La Roche-Posay Cicaplast gel specifically says not to use it around the eyes. Ours doesn't say that. I don't see why it would say that. It doesn't make any sense because, I do caution, don't get any product ever within a millimeter of the lash line, just to reduce the likelihood that it ends up going in your eye. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. The other thing I like about the way it dries down as a skin protectant is it's not greasy. I love petroleum jelly, and I love it around the eyes, but it is greasy. And that's fine and everything, but I find that sometimes if you're a little too heavy-handed with the petroleum jelly, it can kind of melt into the eyes. That's not pleasant. And if you want to use it in the morning, good luck putting sunscreen on over petroleum jelly that you just applied. It's too oily. The glycerin skin protectant, I find it kind of sinks down and films to reduce that water loss. but the surface of the skin is amenable to applying products without them pilling up or anything like that. Likewise, eye makeup will go on over it. You do have to give it some time though, depending on the eye makeup that you are using or the sunscreen. So what I will often end up doing is putting it on in the morning and then going like making my coffee or whatever. Then I'll put on my sunscreen, and by that point, after I've made my coffee, the sunscreen is fine to go on. And then I do some work. I kind of get dressed and everything. I don't put my makeup on. Honestly, there's usually this is just my routine. It's not some like vetted time that you must wait. But it's usually at least an hour of me getting work done in the morning, you know. It's usually at least an hour before I actually get ready to put on makeup, because I have to have my coffee. It's a weird routine. I have to do my skincare. Then I have to drink my coffee. Then I have to put on my makeup. I can't put my makeup on without coffee. I don't know why. Speaking of which, I'm here at this Amazon event and I snagged 4 free, these were gifted, not 1 but 2 of the Maybelline Colossal Bubble Mascaras. I got the Very Black, which I've tried before, that I got at Ulta World, also gifted to me. And I also got to try the waterproof. I don't usually do waterproof, but I'm thinking I might like giving this a try. I usually don't do waterproof just because it's like an extra layer of complexity, but I really have liked this. If you've been here for a long time, like one of my all-time favorite drugstore mascaras is the Maybelline Colossal. I haven't used it in years though, because I'm kind of a mascara flirt. Like I make the rounds when it comes to mascaras. Drugstore, like I'm currently using the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Push-Up Lash, and that's great. But actually what I brought on this trip and have been using is the L'Oreal Telescopic Mascara. This has become, I don't know if you guys can see it because it's trying to focus on all sorts of things. This has become like a drugstore mascara favorite, because this is really good for those long spidery lashes, whereas the bubble gives a little bit more girth plus length to the lashes. So it's kind of all in what you want, but I have really liked this a lot.